Cool. Alchemy. And so we'll come to a space of closed eyes. And noticing our breath. Yeah. Find a space where the shoulders can soften away from the ears. And begin to organize your awareness around the concept of the elements. And so the first one that we'll invite in is the element of earth. Just asking your mind to curate an image that demonstrates earth for you and hold that image behind your eyes. Noticing what earth feels like. Take one full breath with the earth element. And then let your mind create an image for the element of fire. You hear the word fire and an image gets curated behind your eyes. Noticing the feeling that starts happening as you set your inner eye, your inner gaze on this image created when you call in fire. There's one more breath here, feeling fire. And then we'll call in water. We'll call in the element of water. And we'll let our mind show us an image behind our eyes. Noticing any sensation in your body, any feeling, the element of water and the image that you're seeing. There's one more full breath here, dedicated to water. And then we'll release that. We'll call in the element of air. Letting our mind show us an image, air. Letting our body feel air. And taking one more full breath here with the element of air. And then allowing your awareness to descend a little further back into the body, maybe a little further down. And start to scan your body like you could pick up all the feelings that you're having. Scanning through breath by breath, and find the dominant element that is present. Notice the feeling. Just breathing and noticing, what is the element that is most dominant right now for me? We'll take one more breath here together, just noticing. And then we'll start to tuck the chin towards the chest. And stack the hands on top of the heart center. Just press your hands into your chest. With your chin tucked, start to blink the eyes open, having your gaze be slightly down. And when you're ready, arrival, you can start to lift your gaze. Coming back in. Yeah. Arms up, reach up. And then cactus the arms, exhale. Shake the arms out a little. Yeah. Alchemy is a seemingly magical process of transformation, creation, or collaboration. Seemingly magical. I love that that's in there in our Webster's dictionary definition. Seemingly magical. Not quite ready to commit to the magic. The thing about alchemy that I find most profoundly interesting is that it's universal. And it's something that we have innate. It's a quality of the human. We get a little trained out of it because we become more aware of our external as we grow what we call older than our internal. There's an opportunity to re-examine what it means each time that we interact with every single breath we take. Right now, you're interacting with all of the elements. And in your meditation, you're able to see there's one that might be dominant. If you wanted that element to remain dominant, you could invite in practices that radiate with the same element, that share a resonance. If you wanted to lower that element's impact, you could bring in its opposite. And so the thing about alchemy is it's working with a sort of low-key logic. And that is why it's so approachable for the person for the human mind, it's really easy to interact with it. It doesn't threaten a lot of our identity because it's a universal truth. It's like love. It's just a universal truth. We're made up of elements. I'm here. I'm breathing in air. My blood is flowing with water. My bones are made of the earth. And my digestion is of fire. My digestion of ideas, my digestion of the elements I take in. And because we're sort of this walking alchemical structure, we're interacting with the elements all around us all the time. And it gives us power. It's empowering to notice what element is most present in ourselves and in the situation we're in. So we're in a situation that's really stagnant, really heavy earth, just can't catch a vibe. It might be nice to bring in this fire element and share some of this excitement, some of this inspiration. Interesting. Or if you're in an environment that feels really damp and kind of cold, very watery, heavy emotion, you might want to bring in air just to clear communication, a breath of fresh air, a buoyancy to the heart. There's so many ways to work with the elements. I really enjoy plants. So plants are carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and then you are carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. So there's a natural resonance between you and the plants, and that's why they assimilate so easily. Something I always want to consider when we're talking about plants too is that they're ancient and they have wisdom. So we learn something that we call knowledge, and we let it supersede wisdom, which is innate. It's like the alchemy. So the way that we're taught things, the way that we use things, super interesting. Alchemy came about originally, it was medieval, and it was this idea that you could turn lead into gold. And that's kind of a metaphor, really, for what we're always trying to do. We're trying to trade out a less favorable situation for a more favorable situation. We're trying to release the idea of some kind of inner or outer poverty and fall into the idea or embrace the idea of an inner or outer wealth. It's pretty profound. And to land inside of right now is to effectively communicate your alchemy. So there's earth, fire, water, air, and then there's another thing called ether, which is spirit. I'm not necessarily covering that in this class because it could be a class in itself. It's like the thing in all things that is all and none. It's a casual concept, but it does cover the Akashic record, which I do want to talk about a little bit. So I'm going to start with the Ether Akashic because that is where the history that our history comes from lives. And it's pretty interesting. The Akashic studies are available through the seeds, and the resins. One of my favorites is actually cardamom pods, little seeds. Seeds carry DNA. The DNA of a seed is everything the seed will be. It is pure potential energy, and it's actual spirit embodied in a physical thing. There's a mystery. If you haven't planted a seed and watched it sprout, you need to do that today. I will bring you seeds. Because there's a certain kind of magnificence when you see something sprout forth from the earth. There's honestly nothing like it. Anytime that you doubt your ability, you can travel back to your seed. And maybe by that time, it's a small tree. Maybe by that time, you've got a few fruits on it. It's a real measurement of how far you've come. Real way to tell time. It's not minutes, it's moments. So different. So I'm going to cover the elements. I'm going to share my screen because I have a fancy schmancy thing. Yeah. And so first, I want to say welcome to the magic hour today. I chose this little star for our image because I believe we are fragments of a lot of other things. And when we can sort of ground in to the possibility that we are of creation and we come from many, we are here, but we're actually the echo of everything that came before us. So, sure, we're here present now, but we're also an echo. And that's a really interesting way to work with our legacy and our impact on our reality. And so, alchemy is for everyone. Transmute to transform. Alchemy at its base is the transmutation of energy. So transmutation and transformation are different. Transmutation is taking that which you have access to and transforming it into another thing. That is how we can use our alchemical nature to change our reality and our environment. It's also how we can fall into a far more clear version of what's possible. It's so easy to get bogged down in this impossible reality. Most of the time, when something is seemingly impossible, not possible, it's because we are approaching it at an angle that isn't savvy to what we're coming at. We're objecting to what's happening instead of working with it. So we're not using enough of our air and water. We're stuck in fire and earth, being stubborn a lot of the time because we're right. You are worthy. You belong here. I always like to say that. All right. Alchemy is the ability to weave with your nowness in the language of the elements. It is a natural part of you that gets obstructed with what we call reality. So your nowness, now, this moment is also a memory. Simultaneously, this moment is a memory. So to be present is also to remember and weaving with what's happening. Not trying to memorize, control, dominate, just weaving with what's happening. That's the language of the elements. And the part of it that gets obstructed is what we have created, what we've projected forward and called reality. The reality is also what we call possible. So when we run into the impossible, we think that because it's outside of our reality. And alchemy gives you this opportunity to essentially embody that, conquer that, transmute it, and create change, which is often really what we're trying to do. We're trying to create change, but we don't know how because we're stuck in a linear life. And so we'll start with earth first. Earth is the body. Earth is the things that are solid, the bones, the trees, the solid actual ground. Earth. And so the element of earth has a glorious stabilizing energy that opens a portal with gravity. It works with the solid structure of the body when we need to take it down to the rafters and check the scaffold. We work with earth. We work with her when we need to root down and just be. So the dedicated earth element is patient, is stable, is the unbroken masculine. There are times in our life where we have to check out the bones. We gotta look at the scaffold of whatever we're doing. And that is when you're looking to become one with the element of earth, the steadfast nature. Earth is Capricorn, Taurus, and Virgo in the zodiac too. So if you are one of those signs, you are also earth dominant, most likely. She gives us permission to restore. She works with our bones and our body. Earth is sensational and encouraging. She gives us the gift of observation and patience. With her, we can learn to rest and not to quit. So this is a very important thing, learning how to rest and not to quit. Because often we run into these moments where essentially over it. It's because we have become over sensationed, we're overwhelmed, and we're super discouraged. Um, Observation is a superpower. It's related to neutrality and objectivity, which is a very balanced kind of earth. The earth is here to thrive. We are made of earth. We are here to thrive. And earth will create homeostasis for us. Anything our body is doing is in an attempt to create homeostatic behavior. So if there's an imbalance in the body, going back to the earth, going back to the plants to call in harmony is very relevant, mostly because it assimilates instantaneously. It's a part of itself. It's not complicated. It doesn't have to take an extra step to unite with it. It's that carbon, hydrogen, oxygen part. And the seasons are another way to think of the restoration of the earth. Takes it down to the scaffolding in the winter, remodels, goes luxe in the summer. And then there's transition times with the spring and the autumn, where it decides less, maybe more, and there's a whole process there. Her guardians, the guardians of the earth, are the standing nations of trees, the barks, the roots, and the woods. The plants for working with earth, if you're just kind of dipping in, are arborvitae, which is a very ancient tree, cinnamon bark, vetiver, and cedarwood. So arborvitae is for a connection to the divine. I like to use arborvitae on my third eye, just one drop, just kind of dabs on the third eye to stay connected. Cinnamon bark is grounding but enlivening. I use it a lot for being frigid toward people. It's stabilizing but warming. So you have this like willingness to participate. Cinnamon. Vetiver is a root. And the thing about roots are they're underneath the ground. So they're part of the thing that holds the ground together. They're very stable. The vetiver that I use is from Haiti. And the energy of Haiti is very resilient. Cedarwood, another beautiful tree. Cedar has an amazing fragrance, but is also about community. The skin is very much of benefit with cedarwood also. Cedarwood on the bottoms of my feet and my heart is how I use it the most. Cinnamon, cedarwood, cardamom is one of my favorite all-time combinations for working with soothing my soul. Fire element. Fire is the first element humans learn to cultivate. So this is important. Fire is the first element humans thought that they took ownership of. And that's what led to people thinking that they could take ownership of the earth. She's the ignition and the spark that starts the newness of beginnings. So this cultivation began this idea. Fire soothes something in the soul that wants to remain wild. Wildness is the craving of the modern times, unmet by the indoor nature of things. We can use the element of fire to connect to momentum and change. Fire governs transmutation, a superpower that empowers us to manifest with what we have. So there's an idea in the world that you have to keep acquiring things in order to create the change that you want to have in your life. The actual truth is that you have what you need already. You have what you need already. It just has to change forms. Transmutation is your superpower. You were born with it. I know you have it. I would love to teach you how to use it. There's a craving for wildness, to be let loose in the wild. There's a craving for liberation. And we're seeing a lot of this right now being met up against the changing tide of our time. Wildness and rewilding is something that you can do so simply. You can step out onto earth in the morning and just take a few breaths in and out, imagining that this energy was going from the earth to the sky. Any situation, anytime. Fire is about focus and concentration. So fire also creates that ignition switch, momentum, movement, moving, doing, going. It's fast, usually, so it requires attention. Fire governs the fruits. Fruits bring us the burst of energy that inspires growth. So the fruits have the seeds. So important. My favorite way to work with fire is, not are, is with pink pepper, lime, and wild orange. Using these together will create a rejuvenated sense of abundance, focus, equality, play, and purpose. So abundance, focus, equality, play, and purpose are a great life path. That would be so liberating, to be abundant in my focus with a sense of equanimity, a playfulness, and a sense of purpose. I feel that that's what most people really want in their life. So pink peppercorn is a magnificent plant ally to work with. She is bright and fun. She represents the intrinsic equality in all things. So very alchemical that way, that everything has a certain superpower within it. Lime is a party. Lime is a party. Lime is about life. Lime is about that. The leaping of the flames is inside of lime. And then wild orange is abundance, abundance mindset, generosity, being in flow with momentum as it is what's happening. So fire is one to really get to know. And I think fire is really misunderstood because it's often thought of as agitation or temper tantrums. But I think fire is way more. And so water is next, the opposite of fire. And the element of water. So we work with water when we want to fall into the flow of things. We want to surrender, we want to grow into ourselves. She helps to release us from tired memories and stories. With her power, she washes us free. Water is powerful and subtle. She molds to the present vessel. So water takes the shape of whatever it's in. Whoa. Water makes a shape out of whatever it's in. Letting go. So water holds memory. Water actually has memory. So it holds the memories, the old stories, the ways in which we catch and release different experiences in our lives. Water governs the emotions also. So tears, sweat, blood. So interesting, so cool. If you've never just laid down on the ground and let rain fall on you, it's a bucket list situation. Make sure you do it at some point. If you live in Oregon, Pacific Northwest, this should be no problem. When you want to remember that you are free, you are already free, water is the element to work with first. Water queens over the flowers. So flowers are my favorite. This is not a secret. I have a bias for water for sure. To begin working with water, clary sage, magnolia, ylang ylang, and rose. If a person was just going to have one plant ally in their life, rose. Hands down, rose. Frequency work. I say this a lot. Frequency work is for everyone. Frequency is accessible to everyone, and rose is the highest vibration flower. Rose resonates at over 300 hertz. A healthy human is between 68 and 72, no, 62 and 78 hertz. A healthy human, 78 being highest, Superman. So Rose resonates 3 times more high frequency than a healthy human being. It's a daily use situation. Never leave home without your rose water. These flowers are a very sweet medicine for allowing and meeting emotions with patience and flowing with the inner vision. Clary sage is about the inner visionary. Magnolia is the bodhisattva of the plant queendom. A bodhisattva is a Buddhist term, and it's a being that has become enlightened and returns to earth, opts to go through it again in the name of tethering other beings to enlightenment. A heroine, a hero's journey. Magnolia, necessary. Ylang ylang is that playfulness of childhood, the inner child. I appreciate ylang ylang for its buoyancy. The way that we remember our initial identity. So there's a you that came here. And a lot of us spend our whole life trying to remember who that person is, why that person came here. That story is in your cellular structure, because even your bones at their base are cellular. They're made of water. They appear solid. They are not. Inner vision. And then air, the element of air. Oh, I didn't say the zodiac for the other ones. Air is Libra, Aquarius, and Gemini. Water is Pisces, Cancer. We're in Cancer season right now. And Scorpio. And fire is Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. So we got air. And the element of air is about inspiration and communication. We work with air when we want to inspire and communicate our ideas. So inspiration, communication, air helps us get the idea out there and inspire the people. Air governs the mind and is moved in the body by our breath. So opposite elements, air and earth, fire and water, they often work the most together. So fire tempers water, water tempers fire, and then air tempers earth, and earth tempers air. So we move air in our physical earth body with our breath, and we refresh with air. We take a breath of fresh air, we step outside, we go get some air. Air helps us to share our story, how we share our words, how we tell our story. And for that, we are grateful. We are grateful for the ability to tell our story. The forces of air are in our leafy plant allies. To get moving with air, we need peppermint, cilantro, Siberian fir, and petitgrain. So there are lots of oils and plant allies to work with all of these elements, but these are the ones that I think provide this little intro. Like I was saying, this little like toe dipping, and they're a little more familiar. This one, air, though, has petitgrain, which is not a common one. Petitgrain is really unique and a little bit of a hybrid of all of the elements. Petitgrain is the leaves and stems of the bitter orange tree, and it's about feminine ancestry. Siberian fir is a tree, but we use the needles, the fir tips. That is about the masculine ancestry. So right there, that's our story. That's the story that we're telling, our history on both of our epigenetic sides. Cilantro is ridiculous, amazing. It's about releasing control over what's happening. So something that is important to learn in our lifetime, I think, is that we can't control a situation. We can only influence a situation. Peppermint is just breath. Cooling, encourages a widening, opens lung capacity, more breath, more prana. There are schools of thought. Yoga shares this idea, but there are many wisdom traditions that have this notion that you're born with a certain amount of breaths for your whole life. And breath practices are based on the idea if you can lengthen your breath, then you can make your breaths last longer and then live a longer life. I've always thought that was really cool. So peppermint is for the breath. I really like to use peppermint as a mist. I just mix it with water and I kind of spritz it around myself. In the summer, it's like gold. It's so cooling. Cilantro and grapefruit are one of my favorite combinations when I'm trying to release control around my body or someone else's body. Grapefruit is about honoring our body, so listening to our needs. It goes back to that restoration of earth. That's another hybrid one, though, because it's a fruit. So it's so interesting how they alchemize together. To work with these lifts us into our ability to influence and release control. We can let go of stories that don't serve us and work to breathe new life into our history. So we tell the same story, the same thing happens. And if we want to change our life, we have to make a change. Sounds so simple, but it's not. It's not built in. It got built out. The remodel happened and we forgot to keep the back door. Air creates a buoyancy in the heart. Having a heart that is buoyant is the ability to heal. So the old yogic texts and the Kabbalah actually too, they share to heal is to make happy. It's like Pisces forever. To heal is to make happy. I just heard that today from a good friend of mine that it was, and it is so Pisces, which is water, but still, we can influence. We all have the intuitive ability to embody our highest harmony, by aligning with the elemental reality that is present right now. So, not arguing with what's happening. What is required in order to do this is patience and recognition of relationship. We are interwoven and connected in all ways. As above, so below. Another way to say this, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. As above, so below. Those are also ancient words. You could try saying it to yourself and it might even feel old. Intuition and instinct are really different. Instinct comes out of fear and intuition comes out of love. Neither of them is better than the other. It's just knowing where something comes from. When we know what our why is, when we know what our dominant element is, that's going to be a facet of our motivation in the moment that we're in. And if we can look around us and recognize that there's a dominant elemental reality and we know what ours is, we can orchestrate change by aligning or moving away from what's happening, what seems to be happening. Something that's really common is people thinking things are happening to them, but really things are happening and you happen to be there when they happen. Super interesting. Okay. Let's stop my little share here. Come back to you. Yeah. So, seemingly magical reality of creation, combination, and transformation. Alchemy is your ability to take what you have and make what you want. It is very cool. And these allies here that I like to use to have a physical tether to what is already a part of my reality with it make it really interesting and very portable, so that when I'm in a situation that has an excess of fire, but I also have an excess of fire, I'm like, ugh, but I have my water, and I'm just going to use my water. And be able to balance the situation as best I can, because I can't always balance it. The world is very unpredictable, um, but that's what keeps it interesting. And recognizing that you are not an accident. Your life is not an accident. And everything that you run into is in your path. It's there for you. How and why are where our mind kind of gets tripped up, starts to look for reasons that make sense. But feelings are in a different section of your reality than sense. Feelings are water, sense is air. They're not even opposite, they're next to each other. So they run sideways, they don't cross. And we try to connect them all the time. We kind of try to make everything the same, which is interesting because we want to stand out, but we don't want to be different. We want to be noticed, but we want to belong. And there's constantly this thing that's happening, and that's just your mind, and it's designed to do that. It's designed to do that. Yeah. So those are my words. And I'd love to open it up for questions or comments if anybody has curiosities or ideas or their experience with alchemy.
I have a question for you, Freedom.
Mm-hmm.
So when someone's acting or reacting off of maybe like a deep-seated like fight or flight situation, would that be more fire element or more water element because it's emotion, or does it kind of go back to the root cause of why?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And the psychological impact of it is also really cool. So in that case, I would actually go air because of the ancestry element and the history element. However, if I was having the emotional reaction, like what you'd want to do is counter the element. So if the person collapses from trauma and they're sad, then you would need the uplift of fire to communicate with the water and bring it back into homeostasis. But the air would come in as a neutral party, and you'd be able to find the source of the thing. And then the opposite of air is earth, and you call that in for grounding. Because until your nervous system is calm again, well, until anyone's nervous system is calm again, you can't repattern or reprogram. The thing about the allies, and I use essential oils for this most of the time. I also use flower essences. Essential oils, so your limbic brain, this is kind of like what Brittany's referencing, is when you have embodied trauma, there's neuropathological triggers in your brain that respond and react really quickly and really unpredictably, seemingly to the person. You don't register the trigger when it happens. When you realize you're triggered, it's usually three things behind what happened, because your nervous system is designed to keep you safe. And if it's traumatized, it essentially overreacts. But that's not bad. It's very neutral. That overreaction causes asymmetry. and then your body tries to balance itself but can't, because it can't geolocate where it actually is. It's transported into this memory, this trauma time. So this is a profound way to work with plant allies and essential oils and your alchemy, because your limbic brain is connected to your olfactory system, which is your scent memory. So your memories come from scent. It's the oldest sense that the human has, being able to smell danger, smell fire, smell water, smell ripe fruits. This is old wisdom. It's like in your ancient brain. So when you use essential oils consciously and intentionally to repattern trauma, what you're doing is essentially having them with you as you're working with something. So this is one of the ways that plants are really being researched more and more in the last decade, is for trauma work, because trauma isn't as much of a 4-letter word anymore. It's kind of like the trauma Olympics a lot of the time now, where there's like trauma, 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 trauma. It's almost a buzzword, which is kind of like downgrading the ability that we have to really create profound change. So the same way that you have the visual or social or sensory trigger and you go into the trauma reaction, your practices that you have to observe the reaction will help you with the actual element that you need to balance it. So, Brittany, you're totally on point with the fire to change it and the water to understand it. To equalize it is the air and the earth. Does that make sense? Yeah? Cool. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Plus
That's a
some.
really good question. Yeah. Cool. Anybody else?
Freedom.
Yes,
So can you tie Ayurveda into this also? If you're using oils, plants, and then you start using Ayurvedic recipes also, can you use all that at the same time? And
yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
Figured you
Ayurveda
could.
is elemental. So cool. So Vata, Pitta, Kapha. Vata's air, Pitta's fire, and then Kapha is water and earth. So Kapha is like intriguing.
Yeah.
Kapha, when it's imbalanced, anytime water and earth are imbalanced, you get mud. Really thick, dense, oily, slow moving, stick in the mud situation. That's too much kapha. Also, boredom is Kaphic. On a metadata level, this is kind of the problem with overusing social media, is because it's all air and fire in the internet, and the earth and the water get imbalanced in the body. And you get up from the computer and you're like, ugh, I can't. Nothing makes sense. And it's because your elements just got thrown out the window, but you weren't there for it. You were in another imaginary place. Vata, Pitta, Kapha, they're called doshas for people that don't know that. And balancing your doshas is the same. It's alchemy. So Vata people, they have excessive air, or they're air dominant, and they need to come down to the earth a lot. So a lot of Vata people, they look like air when they move. They're very ecstatic. They like move a lot. They're usually long and lean and dry because there's too much air blowing through them. And you bring them down to earth with like warm, cooked, dense foods. You would use the woods, resins. You could go Akashic with kapha too, because of the resins, frankincense and myrrh. That would be, I have found myrrh to be incredible for vata. Do you know your dosha, Kenneth?
Yeah, I did at one time, but it's been a while since I looked into it.
Yeah, I think you're pitta kapha. Yeah, yeah, just by looking at you. So Yeah. Sidebar.
Yeah.
I know I love Ayurveda. I used to work a lot with Ayurveda, and then I sort of changed it to alchemy because it's less associated with a system. However, Ayurveda is alchemy. It's just missing a component because there's just 3 doshas. Unless you count tridoshic, which is a 4th option that's all 3, but it's balanced, sort of. Like the idea is that it's balanced. For you, the air is kind of what you crave, movement, change. And so you can see how the air wants to get called in, which is pretty cool. And then the pitta part, the fire part, bringing in the air, it's like a hearth in our home, or it's like a forest fire. It just depends on the level of air.
Mhm.
So being mindful with fire, because it's the one that gets bananas the fastest, fire requires attention. If we leave fire unattended, potential damages, you know. I'm looking over here because I'm still traumatized from this candle that I knocked over and almost burnt my carpet down. It was crazy. Yeah, embodied trauma is the example. Candle unattended. Like, look at the thing. Does that answer, Kenneth?
Yes. Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Cool. Yeah, the essential oils too, the ones that I share, they're from doTERRA. They're certified pure therapeutic grade. That is a certification that, like, 50 times over guarantees quality and ingestible safety. So you can take internally doTERRA essential oils, and they have profound benefit on all the systems of the body. So if you were trying to balance those, you could take them internally too, which is cool.
As long as you actually like the taste of something.
Oh my God, Kenneth's never gonna forgive me. I got him frankincense, and I didn't tell him it was gonna taste bad because I think it tastes good, and he was like, "It's been 3 days, I can't get it out of my mouth." And I was like, "You're fine."
I'm still tasting it though.
It's so funny. I'm sorry. I'll never do it again. Oh my gosh. Anybody else questions? I want to be respectful of everybody's time. It's been about an hour.
I just have one more question going off of the doshas. Sorry, I have so many questions.
Girl, are you kidding?
I know you're a wealth of information.
All communication.
So would you recommend like when you went through the elements, the different plant allies? So like I'm heavy kapha, so like to balance it out to have more vata and pitta, would you recommend the fire and air element?
Yeah.
Essential oils and stuff.
Yeah, totally. That will help bring kapha into balance. To relate with kapha, like to become accepting of your kapha, you could use earth too. But if you want to shift it, like create a change, you would go with air or fire. Water, you'd have to intuit because it honestly just depends on how dense the earth is in you. So like right now it's summer, so the earth needs water because it's hotter. There's more fire present. So I might use air in particular for the season.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Kappa. Kappa queens. Me too. Bata kappa.
Yeah, vata kapha.
Mm-hmm.
They're like together, and I just got.
I can see it. Big eyes. Lots of hair. Lots of hair is kappa. So that's a giveaway. Yeah. And when you see the people that are like so tall and so skinny, you're like vata. Or you see red-haired people, it's another giveaway for pitta. But There's more things, but those are like kind of like, oh, I can see it. Yeah. Jocelyn just left, but I saw her unmute, so I'll find her. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Yeah.
Thank you, Bree. That was amazing.
Oh my gosh, T, I'm so glad you're here. That gong. So good.
Thank you, Sister Love. Really appreciate your wisdom.
Oh my gosh. So good. Yeah. I see you soon. All right. Let's take our hands to our hearts. Let's close your eyes. Beaming out through the ethers everything that you desire. And take your thumbs up to your third eye, space between your brows. Breathe in. Exhalation, bow forward. We say Satnam.
Satnam.
Satnam. I love you.
Aloha.
Watching this later, we love you too. Yeah.
Freedom. Have a good night.
You too, B. I'm so glad you made it. Yeah.
Good night.
Bye.
Night.
All right.
I love you.